there's going to be actually some new strategies that are coming out that I'm really excited to talk to you guys about. But overall, this is going to be what I think as a Masters player of these decks in Master Duel right now. Of course, you guys may have a different scenario or situation. I'm just talking about for most Yu-Gi-Oh players or most Master Duel players, what would be the experience if you chose this deck? I know a lot of you guys are absolutely insane with your deck, so let me know down below in the comment section, how well will you work with your deck depending on where I put it. I think Branded was actually a lot better than what I gave it credit. A good Branded player really does show. They've been using Branded Retribution to be able to recur Branded Fusion, but the problem is it's still 3 Ash Blossoms in Joyous Spring to 1 Branded Fusion, and if your Branded Fusion gets Ash Blossom, you now need to figure out a way to put that Retribution into the graveyard and wait for another turn. I would still say that this deck is pretty much borderline. Branded players are really crafty and extremely resourceful, and anytime a side quest, I forget what they're called, like when they do the little tournaments where you're locked into only like restrictions or whatever, if Branded is ever allowed to be played in those tournaments, then it's normally the best deck. I think it's a solid Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Blackwings 100% are down to takes a really good pilot. Blackwings are hella inconsistent. With Pot of Prosperity at 1, Pot of Extravagance at 1, the deck doesn't have a consistent way to be able to get into full combo, but a good Blackwing player will be able to mitigate between that and summon some really powerful Blackwing boards. As you guys can see, let me take a second out to say, we have a whole new system for Twitch, so you guys could go ahead and join us Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and sometimes Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time if you guys want to see us do this live and other things as well. Blue Eyes White Dragon. Real challenge, guys. I still have not seen a Blue Eyes player in Diamond, which is kind of crazy because we've seen a lot of Blue Eyes players, but I have never seen a Diamond rated Blue Eyes match. I really want to see one because I want to see what somebody's going to do with it, but overall, Blue Eyes is not really a great Yu-Gi-Oh deck, unfortunately, but hopefully some new support will help it. I would say Chaos is in the takes a good pilot. There was a huge surge of Chaos when it came out, and Chaos Angel is still an amazing card. I think that a lot of times you can steal games just off of that, but other times you have to navigate through your Chaos cards. Overall, as an engine, it's pretty good, but as a deck, takes a really good pilot. I wish it were really cheap, because I would pick it up if it were. Dark Magician. I think that Dark Magician is a little bit stronger than Blue Eyes, but that really doesn't mean much. I still have not seen a Dark Magician player in High Diamond. I think we may have seen a replay for Diamond. If you guys have some replays you want to share with us, go ahead and follow the rules in the description. I can't wait to see them, or just catch us on stream. That's like the best way to show it. Dark Magician's problem is that it's a little bit too slow in modern Yu-Gi-Oh right now, but overall, a correct Dark Magician player is a little bit better than a Blue Eyes player or probably anybody else in this real challenge. I would say Dark World is in the takes a really good pilot. The biggest problem with Dark World, even though Droll and Lockbird is non-existent, is the Master Duel timer itself. In the TCG, when you play Dark World, there's no such thing as a 300-second timer. So to be honest with you, I remember in one particular regional that I was going to, I played against a Dark World player, and I didn't open any of the outs, which is no Bystials or Droll and Lockbird, and we sat there for a good 35 minutes of him playing Yu-Gi-Oh! I think that if you're playing Dark World in Master Duel, you're going to have to mitigate that time to be able to actually make boards to win. But overall, even besides that, Dark World is still a really tricky deck to play. Dinos are getting support in Master Duel. I repeat, guys, Dinos are getting support in Master Duel, and the support is actually crazy. Unfortunately, they're not getting it right now. So for right now, Dinos are incredibly inconsistent and takes a really good pilot. I think when the new support comes out, Dinos become an incredible Yu-Gi-Oh deck. But for right now, that takes a really good pilot slot is where it's going to be. Dogmatica, I actually think is borderline. And I think it's borderline because, yeah, this is for actual Dinos. I think we have Dinomorphia on this list. If we don't, remind me and I'll talk about it. Actually, let's talk about it right now. I think Dinomorphia is a little bit better, probably in the borderline. Dinomorphia actually has a way to be able to lock your opponent out with monster effects. It's a lot more consistent. And it actually can put some really big pressure. So I think it's borderline. Dinos, like the deck, like Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, normal Dinos, yeah, not worth it. Too many gems anyways. Dogmatica simply win games because they rip your entire extra deck, and a lot of strategies really will struggle against that particular deck or that strategy. The problem with Dogmatica is decks like Kashtira and Scareclaw don't necessarily care about losing a lot of their extra deck because they only need like 2 or 3 cards to beat you. And they play cards like Kashtira Riceheart, which makes this deck incredibly hard to play. Ignister, I think, has the exact same problem as Dark World. The big problem is that this deck requires a big brain to be able to play. Also, another thing to note about Dark World and Ignister is Kashtira. The problems with this is that not only will Dark World get their cards banished, but same thing as Draco Slayer. There's also Kashtira Shangri Era banishing or locking out your Pendulum Zones. That can be really problematic. I think it takes a really good pilot to be able to play. Dragons, I think dragons are a solid choice. Again, everything pretty much gets nerfed when you have cards like Kashtira or Riceheart that manipulate the graveyard. But if you don't play against those matchups, dragons are really solid, very scary Yu-Gi-Oh deck in the correct hands. And sometimes you get rewarded even for playing like a bot, like yours truly. I still win games with this deck even when I make mistakes, huge mistakes sometimes. And that actually is a sign of a deck that's a little bit too powerful. Exosisters, I would say Exosisters are borderline. Exosister against almost any non-graveyard reliant deck is actually incredible. It's the problems when you get to those non-graveyard reliant decks where the deck can struggle. I think that the new Sakitama monster is crazy for the deck, and I really wanted to build Exosister, but unfortunately, way too many ultra rares to be able to play that deck. Floowandereeze is also borderline, not a bad Yu-Gi-Oh deck, not the best Yu-Gi-Oh deck in the world. Getting Floowandereeze cards banished face down like your one-ofs really does suck, and that's why I'm going to put it in borderline. But other than that, it's a solid Yu-Gi-Oh deck. I would say that Furhire is in the solid choice. This is another deck that, like, if it doesn't go against Kashtira or Riceheart, it can do really well in Master Duel. But that actually just shows how oppressive Kashtira Riceheart is. Please, Master Duel, ban Kashtira Riceheart, because it does prevent so many other decks from being able to thrive. Galaxy Eyes, I've seen my fair share of Galaxy Eyes to be on copium, guys, right? I'm going to say it takes a really good pilot. I think that Galaxy Eyes can win games really quickly. All right. That was copium. Now, it can win games quickly. It also can't go second, like, for its life. It can't do much of that. Let me go ahead and turn this down really quick. That way we don't have that. Thank you so much for the follow, by the way. I don't have a way to turn it down. Hey, guys, just don't follow right now. Galaxy Eyes is borderline. Stop. No, you got chat coping right now. Galaxy Eyes is borderline. No, that cannot go second against a lot of decks that have already established. It only wins when players don't know what Galaxy Eyes does. It's not great. It doesn't even have an amazing going first board unless you incorporate the Bestials, which then again, you're probably better off playing Dragons. It's probably, okay, it's the best a real challenge deck here. I'll give you that. It probably could be and takes a good pilot, but it's definitely not borderline. You guys are coping right now. Generator, I would say in the takes a really good pilot. This deck heavily loses to like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring on the Generator boss stage, or any type of interruption on the Generator boss stage. So yeah, I definitely would say takes a really good pilot. Fortunately enough, it does get support in Revolution Synchron that hopefully we get very soon to make it a contender. Kashtira, as a pure deck, ironically, I would just say a solid choice. This deck seems really, really scary, incredibly powerful in Master Duel, but gets clapped up by like so many random things. From my personal experience, I think we've played maybe 20 Kashtira in like that I can remember in recent times. I probably lost only to like 3 of them. And one of them opened the stones. I remember that. Like, he opened every particular card, then top deck Kashtira Birth. The other person opened Dimension Shifter while I'm playing Dragons. So maybe I've lost maybe twice to it. It's a deck that seems really scary. It has a bark, but its teeth, come on now. Its teeth feel like gelatin or something like that. It's not that deck, but it's a deck that does win unfairly because of cards like Kashtira Birth and Theosis and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in solid choice. I think that Labrynth is actually a Masters level deck. Labrynth is so good at contrasting the best deck in Master Duel right now, which I'll explain as soon as I get to it. It's really powerful, especially when people don't play cards like Lightning Storm and stuff to be able to combat it. It's just crazy good right now. And keep in mind, Labrynth isn't even in its final form. It's going to get more support. This is a deck that is going to be really powerful once we get the new set too. Marineess, I would say, is borderline. The problem with the Marineess is all of the random stuff and Maxi. That's what I would say were the two big problems for Marineess. It's a really powerful deck in the correct hands. It does give you some situations where you're really good, but when you get shut down, you get shut down. Same thing with heroes. It's almost the exact same situation. There are some great Yu-Gi-Oh! Or there's some great cards that this deck has going for it. Dark Law is a little bit overshadowed with cards like Kashtira, Riceheart, but Destiny Hero Plasma is crazy good. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in the borderline. Mathmech post the new set. So I think Mathmech post the Singular Warrior is a solid choice. Allow me to explain why. Outside of Kashtira or Riceheart, this deck has no problems. Like, Kashtira is a tough matchup, and Kashtira is a tough matchup for all of these decks, including Kashtira in itself, right? This deck gains more ways to be able to make some ridiculous combos with the new Firewall cards. I think that this is the best deck to play when it comes to the Firewall cards and Firewall support in this deck. It also can search cards like Kaijus through the effect of Small World. So it's actually one of the better decks in the game. I think it's really, really crazy. Mathmech is a real challenge with Circular at 1. My guy, this is Master Duel. Circular's at 3 in Master Duel. Circular's at 3 in Master Duel, right, chat? Don't, come on now. It's trying to play us. Ninjas is a really good pilot. I played this deck to Masters. After that, we have not touched the deck since. This deck requires way too many outliers to be able to perform well. Oh, Bird Lotion, he just doesn't even understand what Master Duel is, so don't even listen to him, guys. It's a solid Yu-Gi-Oh deck if you know what you're doing, but it does take a really good player to be able to play well. Now, this Melfi card represents Melfi Sprite with the limitation of Nimble Beaver. I think the deck is a lot harder to play, but I still think it's fairly powerful. I'm going to put it in solid choice. Sprite loses to decks that summon bigger monsters. Fortunately, that is Labrynth and Kashtira. But overall, really, really solid deck. Naturia, I would also put in the solid choice. I think that runic cards are good as long as you don't go against Kashtira, because it is a deck that just naturally disrupts the flow of your Kashtira cards. But other than that, they're solid choices. They're pretty solid Yu-Gi-Oh decks. Naturia even a little bit more, because Naturia Barkion can stop cards like the Mathmech trap card, and the Labrynth deck Beast can stop spell cards, which are really, really important. I would put Plunder Patrol in. I put Plunder Patrol in a solid choice, actually. I think Plunder Patrol's crazy. Plunder Patrol is one of the only runic decks that has a natural weakness to a Riceheart, but also has a natural advantage. Plunder Patrol ship Jord can give them a token, which can be really, really hard to be able to get rid of. It's crazy how that's actually a decent counter. How about Unchained and Rescue? Bro, just don't even listen. Don't even listen to Bird Lotion's on drugs. Just like, what are you going? I am missing Rescue Ace here, which is, let's fix that. Let me go let's fix Rescue Ace. We are supposed to have that. Yep, there we go. Got Rescue Ace on here. That is actually a correct one. Punk. I would put Punk in takes a really good pilot. The difference between Punk being down here and being up here is that all these decks have a unfair thing that it can do. Like just a crazy, ridiculous thing that makes it so good. Punk doesn't have that ridiculous thing. Chaotic Ruler is probably better reserved in Dragons, and the Exceed plays are not amazing. It's a decent engine. I think that its time will shine when we get the Gold Pride cards, but for right now, I put it in takes a really good pilot. Despite what you guys think, Pearly is a Masters level Yu-Gi-Oh deck. The problem with Pearly is that it gets bad representation. You guys, at whatever rank that you're in, you'll probably see Pearly players and they eat glue. Like, it's such a hard deck to play. It's understandable why a lot of people think that this deck is not great. But when a good player gets a hold of Pearly, it looks like an entirely different Yu-Gi-Oh deck. It's crazy good. I would say Mikanko is borderline. I don't think that it's necessarily a bad Yu-Gi-Oh deck. It's a deck that I'm not really peculiar with. We actually wound up building it because we thought it was a great to Kashtira. Plot twist, it is good against Kashtira. It's just a deck that does have so many Master Duel flaws, like Maxis and Ash Blossoms. Maxis definitely being one of them. And has to go against that time feature. You said we're also missing Mikanko. We are missing Mikanko. Let's go ahead and add Mikanko. I actually love how this tier maker is like fixed so many things here. It's kind of crazy. I can just add it now. Scareclaw is also one of the best decks in Master Duel. This is the best version of Kashtira for Master Duel. It's crazy cool. What about Madoshe? I'm not coping, I promise. The only problem, like what Blade Rummy says, is that this deck is crazy expensive. So you do have to watch out for that. But other than that, this deck is one of the best decks, hands down, in Master Duel. No debate. Sword Soul is... Sword Soul's pretty much here. Sword Soul is power crept. It feels really bad to play Sword Soul into Master Duel right now. Especially with Kashtira running around. That deck is really hard for this deck to deal with. Right now, it's just not a great time for Sword Soul. Tearlament, I would put it... Okay, I would actually give Tearlament the... yeah, it's probably still here. Tearlament might be able to get the borderline treatment. I haven't seen a lot of Tearlament players play yet. It'll be interesting to see what they do with it. But for right now, I'm going to say it takes a really good pilot because I know it would take a great pilot to be able to manage Tearlament. Thunder Dragon, stop. Stop. It's a reason why you guys never got the Thunder Dragon to Masters video. This deck is, holy God. It's the fact that ninjas were easier to get the Masters than Thunder Dragon was crazy, guys. It's not a bad deck. I just wouldn't recommend you build it. Trap Tricks. I would say Trap Tricks are borderline. Pretty powerful deck. Just sucks going second. Has a decent matchup against decks like Kashtira. But also has a terrible matchup against decks like Labrynth. Firewall as a deck. Stop. It's a real challenge. This deck's not good. The reason why it's a real challenge is because you're better off just playing Mathmech. Mathmech with the Firewall cards is infinitely better. Though I will admit, Firewall as a deck itself is still really, really fun to play. So if you guys are playing casually or maybe you want to challenge yourself, play that. It's actually one of the decks I would suggest playing. Hungry Hamburger. Oh my God. Oh my God. My God. This deck's bad. The Nuavel strategy is just a worse, and I mean a worse Rika strategy. If you wanted to play a bad version of a deck, just play Hungry Hamburger. It's like, it's really, really bad, guys. I apologize. Ritual lovers, there's almost nothing that this deck can do that Rika can't just do better. And for the people that are coping like, oh, with searchable, with rituals, you can add it in another engine. Just play a better ritual deck. There's nothing wrong with it. Just play a better ritual deck. It's not good. It's just not good. It's not good. You let them cook, you're going to burn down the oven. My thoughts on the new cards. Vanquish Soul. I'll talk about that in a second. Mikanko is a Masters level Yu-Gi-Oh deck. I hate it. I actually absolutely hate it. But Mikanko is one of the best decks in Master Duel. Its untargetable, indestructible play is really hard to deal with. And seeing that we're in a best of one, if you go first, you can always be caught off by surprise. Lastly is Rescue Ace. I had Rescue Ace really low. I've seen a lot of great things with Rescue Ace. I'm going to put it in solid choice, which is crazy. Rescue Ace becomes a Masters level Yu-Gi-Oh deck once we get Emergency, and probably becomes the best deck in Master Duel if we get Emergency with a new card called the Sinful Spoils engine. I doubt we're getting the Sinful Spoil cards anytime soon, but if you're investing into Rescue Ace, it's actually a very safe investment. It probably could be considered borderline, but I'm going to put it in solid choice. Vanquish Soul, this could be coping, guys. I want you guys to let me know down below in the comment section. Apparently, we are getting Vanquish Soul, Jailong in the new set. I think that this is going to be one of the best decks available. It has excellent matchups against Kashtira, against this stupid deck. It has pretty decent against Mikanko. It has its way to be able to go against it. It does struggle a little bit against Pearly, but it also is amazing against Labrynth. Well, never mind. It actually struggles unless you know exactly what you're doing. Like you gotta play a fine line against those decks. But overall, this deck can be seemingly unfair in the correct person's hands. I'm gonna go ahead and give it the Masters nod because that is what I'm gonna be playing for Masters. And I think it's gonna be easier than playing Dragon Link. And Dragon Link was really easy for us to get the Masters with. that's all that I have for my tier list, my Master Duel tier list, guys. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. If you think that I missed something, let me know. And if you guys like the bots on the side that have been saying stuff, if you agree with them, disagree with them, let me know. I can't wait to see what you guys have to say.